Sipping kawa in Kashmir and a gondola ride in Gulmarg. Your tips for a truly great Kashmiri holiday.
Okay, so Kashmir is nature. Kashmir is nature putting its best foot forward. Kashmir is nature switching on the romantic in you. So in Kashmir, just sit back and look at those mountains and just sit back, relax and enjoy. Go for a walk. Gondola ride is great because you get great views. Kawa is something anybody, wherever you stay, no matter where you stay, whether you stay in a homestay or you stay in staff hotels, they will serve you. You can learn how to make kawa. It's pretty simple. And that comes, it's like a package deal. When you're in Kashmir, you have to have kawa.
With a bucket list that packs in the 7 wonders of the world, this is ICICILombard.com presents Get Some Sun Season 4.
How does one then spend a best weekend in Pondicherry? How does one spend the best weekend in Pondi?
You know what? I like to do a lot of walking around in cities I visit. And, there is so much information for today's traveler. There's so much information available out there that you can literally plan your itinerary minute by minute where you want to do, what you want to do in terms of, recommendations of what to see, what to do, what to eat. There's so much available. But I like an element of surprise in my travels. I like an element of discovery in my travels. So I just leave a space where I just go for a walk. I talk to people. I try to find things and things emerge, so no matter where, I love to walk and find things firsthand.
So your tip would be take a walk through Pondicherry, spend some time with the locals.
Yes.
And what did you discover about Pondicherry that you'd like to share?
I think I just love the architecture and I just love the laid-back attitude of locals. So you order, if you go to a typical Pondi restaurant and a nice restaurant, you sit back, you order something, it'll take good 45 minutes to come. And you have those 45 minutes to just sit back and observe the place around you. It's a laid-back place compared to most Indian places which have this very anxiety-filled air, most big cities. So Pondicherry doesn't have that. It lets you relax.
Right.
And it has a spiritual side to it with the Auroville and the whole organic food movement and, organic product movement. You have nice industry, people like high design are based there. So I also look at businesses which operate out of a particular place.
Right.
Because in my other avatar, I'm also a business consultant. So for Pondicherry, it's a very relaxed energy that I remember. You can leisurely walk. Not too many people if you don't go on weekends. Not too many people.
Wonderful. Coming to America, Tales from America. Besides, I picked out there was baseball and NASA and veggie food in Houston. Not many people make it to Houston when they, want to travel to America. What took you there and a little bit about that place?
So, Houston, I lived in Houston for a few months. This is during my employment day, so I was working there. So I got to explore Houston by living there, which is probably the best way to explore a city. And I discovered so many Bollywood films that were shot there. Every place that looked familiar, and I said, where have I seen this? And somebody would say, that film was shot here.
Okay.
Yeah, so in Houston, of course, NASA is a big thing there. Vegetarian food, because I'm a vegetarian, so I end up picking up places where vegetarian food is, and I keep sharing it because most vegetarians face a challenge when they travel.
True.
So that helps them figure out where the good veg food is. So yeah, I actually did a lot of interesting things because, for example, I attended a spring festival in Houston in a small village, and where they have this vintage car rally.
Okay.
So, from morning to evening, you only see vintage cars, and vintage cars.
Fantastic.
I learned some country dancing there. I took some writing workshops there.
Okay.
So it was very interesting, yeah.
This is really interesting. We've all learnt about it in our textbooks. Not many of us managed to reach it. It's Cherrapunji, which is the wettest place on earth. You have visited? Talk to us about that place.
Cherrapunji, as we all know, it's not now the wettest place, but the wettest place is not too far from it. It's still one of the wettest places. The strange discovery that I had there was that Cherrapunji faces water problem during summers.
Jeez, okay. That's ironic.
So that's not just ironic, it also talks about our bad management of water, because a place that gets so much rainwater, how can it be water deficient in the rest of the year?
Right, absolutely.
So you end up discovering a lot of these small things. And, we always talk about the rains in Cherrapunji, but Cherrapunji has some of the most beautiful waterfalls in India. and the India's tallest waterfall, which is, I think, about 1,000 meters or something, or 1,000 feet. I may be wrong, but the tallest waterfall of India is in Cherrapunji.
Fantastic.
And it has a lovely story around it. It's woven in a lovely folk tale of a woman who committed suicide, and these are like, so it's a very beautiful place to be in.
Now, taking you to Europe and the rest of the world, you've done extensive traveling there. A walk around the famous Prague Castle, your highlights, and how does one romance Prague?
So, I think most travelers would tell you Prague is a very romantic city because it's so damn beautiful. You just walk around it and you feel the romance in the air. But let me tell you the city which I find even more romantic than Prague, and that's Budapest.
Okay.
Budapest, you walk on its bridges, which are so well lit at night. You sit on the Buda side of the hill, and you look down on the river, and on the other side where the parliament is well lit up at night.
Okay.
It is one of the most romantic places. You should not go solo there ever.
Well, I hope the husband is listening in. Wonderful. So it's Budapest. That is a must-do.
It's a must-do. I just did a couple of posts on Budapest, and I always say that don't go there alone. Go with your partner.
Take us through some of the must-visit places in the royal city of Cooch Behar in West Bengal.
Cooch Behar. I don't know if you know, the most famous export of Cooch Behar is Maharani Gayatri Devi.
That's right.
Of Jaipur. Okay, so I knew this place only because I read in her biography that she came from Cooch Behar. And for the longest time, I thought Cooch Behar is a part of Bihar.
Right.
It is not. It's in West Bengal. So when I was planning a trip to North Bengal, I budgeted a day for Cooch Behar. And I discovered a very beautifully designed town. There are very few countable number of towns in India which are very beautifully designed. Now, this is a small town which has a lake at the center of it. It's called Sagar Dighi, and the whole town is around the lake, and on the one side is this beautiful palace. It's majestic. Probably one of the best palaces in India. It's called Rajbari, and except on Fridays, I think it has a museum inside it, and even if it's closed, you can walk around it and see the palace in red and silver color.
Wow.
It's beautiful, and it has sprawling gardens all around it, couple of lakes around it. It's beautiful palace that I discovered, and which anybody visiting Cooch Behar has to see. Then I discovered some lovely temples, the temples associated with the palace. It's called Madan Mohan Badi, and apparently the temple still belongs to the royal family. A couple of other temples. And then I discovered they have a turtle conservation center.
Right.
Where you can see turtles. So all these things in a very small town, a very beautifully designed town, mostly in red color. Cooch Behar is a lovely destination.
Well, moving on to, nostalgia, a quaint ride aboard the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. Is this one for history buffs? People who love a bit of history or slice of history should try this.
I think anybody should try this because, one, it's a piece of history. It's a World Heritage Site. It's a train which has been in operation since 1880s. And it has been operating since then, non-stop. It's a train that goes through the most scenic routes in India. Most of the Indian train songs in Bollywood films have been shot on this train.
Right.
And you can take a joyride. You can take a 7-kilometer joyride, which takes some 30-40 minutes. And the stations are very colorfully designed, and you can read the whole history there. And it's like riding a toy train. Anybody visiting Darjeeling, you have to take one ride on this.
When you look at all your travels across India, the unique sights and sounds from across India, for example, the temple in Rajasthan where rats rule, and there was the indigenous Terra Madra festival in Meghalaya a few years ago. According to you, can you share some of the unique sights and sounds from across India that have really struck a chord with you?
So apart from the places you mentioned, one very lesser known but a very beautiful place that I discovered is a place called Bishnupur in West Bengal again. And it's a place which is full of terracotta temples, and these are like breathtakingly beautiful terracotta temples with intricate carvings on them.
Wow.
And it's not like one temple, it's like a town full of temples. everywhere you go, you see the same terracotta and different temple styles. So that was a great discovery. In fact, one of my readers told me about it when I was planning a trip to West Bengal. So that's one of my favorite, things to recommend. And then, like I said, I do a lot of walking around. So every walking tour, I would have discovered something. For example, last year I was in Rajasthan and we were in Bikaner. Now, Bikaner is not really on top of Rajasthan's tourist circuit.
Right.
But in one walk, we discovered these heritage havelis, which are like time travel. So you almost feel you've gone back few hundred years and you are traveling through these opulent havelis with like brilliant facades, narrow streets, tall havelis, colorful doors, colorful carvings, and it's a merchant. We call it a merchant trail because these are all havelis belonging to traders and merchants of that town.
Wow.
It was like a great discovery. In Baroda, we were walking through the old town and we discovered this haveli called Tambikarwada. Now, it belongs to one of the rich guys, and when you go to the third and fourth floor of this haveli, every inch of the wall is painted with stories.
Wow.
Colorfully painted. There are stories from epics. There are stories of the current times, the time which it would have been painted. So it tells you the story of the Indian independence movement, war stories, and then documentation of different types of musicians, dances, costumes, everything.
Wow.
And it's a haveli, it's not a palace.
Fascinating.
I think every part of India, every city has some hidden gem which we do not know. Last year, we were doing a road trip across Konkan from Goa to Ratnagiri.
Right.
On the way, if you are traveling on this route at this point in time, you just take a detour anywhere on the highway and you will bump into a lovely waterfall.
Yeah.
Every nook and corner you'll find, and the only colors you see is the grey of the road and green of rest of the landscape is green, and in between there'll be one milky white waterfall.
Wow, you painted a wonderful picture for us. You really have. Sailing terminology.
Right.
And it was really interesting to discover words like doldrums and trade winds to taken aback, and also the meaning of son of a gun.
Right.
To my Radio 1 listener, can you quickly take us through that, son of a gun and what it really means?
I'll skip that because I'll have to remember a lot of things. There's another article that I want to talk about, which is 10 phrases that I learned while traveling, which is my all-time favorite article.
Okay.
And it talks about the phrases that we've learned in school or heard so many times, but we never knew what it means, So I was in one of the jungles in central India, and I clicked the eagle. I got a very good shot of an eagle, and when I looked at its eye, then I knew what eagle eye means. You have to look at that picture and you would know what eagle eye is,
Okay.
We use it, but we'll never know, right?
Okay.
For example, locking horns,
Yep.
We hear this word so often, that these two people are locking horns. But it was again in one of the jungles when I saw two deers locking their horns for a female that I discovered where this term comes from.
Ah.
They're literally locking their horns while fighting. Yes. Similarly, I was in Spiti Valley in the month of July, where the shepherds come with their sheep because it's green at that point in time.
Right.
And all these sheep were trying to cross a small water body, a small rivulet. And, wherever the first sheep goes, the rest of them just follow blindly.
Okay.
And that's when I learned the herd mentality. Or bhed chal, as we call in Hindi, That's when I said, okay, this is where the word has come from. Another word which I learned was bigwig. We always say he's a bigwig or she's a bigwig. Can you imagine where that word comes from?
Donald Trump and his big wig?
That's now. The word has been in. At some point in time in Europe, your net worth was judged by how many wigs you have.
Right. That's interesting. Okay. So how many wigs in your closet would determine how well-to-do you are?
What your net worth is. Yeah. Just like today you have how many diamonds you have or how many cars you have or how many apartments you have. At some point in time it was wigs.
Right.
And wigs were damn expensive. So that's where the word big wigs comes from.
Fantastic.
my travel has made my education meaningful.
And it just proves that, two most important things you should spend your money on, and that's education and travel, I believe, because, one can feed off the other.
I would say travel more because it's first-hand learning.
Okay. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much. It's been fantastic having a chat with you. To my Radio 1 listener, do check out Anuradha Goyal's very informative blog. It's called IndiTales.com. That's INDI Tales.com. Travels across India and the world, and lots of interesting and very helpful stuff for all you travelers. Anuradha, it was such fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Drive Mumbai.
Keep traveling.